Millionaire's shock as amazing woman transforms his challenge. She speaks 5 languages. Discovered. Mark Henderson sat at a corner table in a tiny cafe, rain tapping against the window, droplets cascading like his spiraling thoughts about his tech startup. The world outside felt heavy, each passing moment amplifying the pressure settling on his shoulders. With international markets slipping further out of reach, the stakes had never been higher. Failure echoed in his mind like a relentless drumbeat, a constant reminder that success meant everything: profits, accolades, validation. He clenched his coffee cup, the warmth unable to thaw the ice of anxiety that gripped his chest. As he scanned the bustling cafe, the chatter of patrons faded into white noise. His focus sharpened on the waitress who moved effortlessly among them. Elena Martinez navigated the crowd like a well-oiled machine, her dexterity leaping from table to table. But it was her voice that truly caught his attention. Each language she flowed through was a melodic bridge of cultures that resonated with him, igniting a flicker of hope amidst his simmering frustration. Could she truly help? The thought crossed his mind hesitantly. Mark had dismissed her before. A waitress couldn't possibly possess the skills needed to address the monumental barriers his company faced. He couldn't shake that initial judgment, tainted by arrogance and preconceived notions on class and capability. He felt conflicted, a part of him urging him to approach her, the other warning him of the risks. But desperation morphed into determination. He had nothing to lose. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. The conversation with Elena bloomed, her intelligence sparkling against the backdrop of his growing insecurity. But with her vibrant presence came the shadows of her own struggles, whispers of her immigrant background intermingled with tales of dreams delayed, crushing economic burdens weighing heavily on her every word. Mark's reputation, shining but brittle, matched against her reality, igniting a bizarre mix of admiration and guilt within him. Could he, a man conditioned to chase profit, appreciate the depth of her fighting spirit? As they soared on the wings of cross-cultural connections for high-stakes deals that were finally within reach, Mark felt a tenuous partnership forming. Yet, just as hope flickered bright, darkness loomed. A ghost from his past, a corporate scandal threatening to suffocate everything he had built, emerged, spiraling him into turmoil. Was he about to lose everything? Could he trust Elena when the world turned its back on him? Caught in a tempest of emotions, the weight of expectations intensified, his mind racing with thoughts of despair and doubt. Tension silently built as he prepared for the landscape of betrayal, wondering not just about business, but the price of loyalty between them. Shadows encroached on his vision, whispering doubts about their shared ambitions. The path forward felt fraught with peril, and uncertainty festered like a wound, leaving him grappling with a paralyzing fear that success wouldn't free him, but would instead ensnare him deeper. As they stood on the precipice of breakthrough or ruin, an even deeper storm raged within Mark. The question blazing in his chest: could they truly overcome the shadows of doubt, or was it all destined to slip away? The cafe hummed with life, yet for Mark, time felt suspended. The rain outside morphed into a torrential downpour, mirroring the chaos within him. Elena's laughter cut through his spiraling thoughts, a soothing balm that ignited the flicker of determination. Each word they exchanged built a bridge, pulling him closer to a partnership he had never imagined possible. But with every question she posed, he felt the weight of his past pressing heavier on his chest. "Mark," Elena said, her expressive eyes probing deeply into his, "you seem lost. What's really going on?" He hesitated, the instinct to shield his vulnerabilities from her stronger than the urge to be honest. Trust didn't come easily for him. It was a precious resource rarely extended. Yet, as he scanned her face, he sensed the genuine curiosity that beckoned him to share. The demons of his corporate past hovered ominously in the background, and revealing them felt akin to walking a tightrope. "I've made some decisions," he said, the admission tasting bitter. "I had a scandal tied to my last product. Allegations of overpromising on specifications. It nearly destroyed everything." Elena leaned in, her interest intensifying. "And now you're afraid to trust anyone, even yourself?" He nodded, an uncharacteristic vulnerability bubbling to the surface. The truth laid bare, a tangle of anxiety and guilt swirling together. He had been so focused on success and financial gain that he had nearly lost sight of his integrity. In the tech world, the lines between innovation and deceit could sometimes blur, leaving scars that didn't heal easily. "I can't afford to fail again," he confessed, "especially not now, with you involved. Your success is crucial." Elena straightened, and he could see her resolve solidify. "Then we need to confront it, Mark. Together." Her voice was unwavering, the words inflected with urgency. "You can't run from these ghosts. They'll only haunt your future." Mark's heart raced, his brain frantically calculating the implications of her suggestion. Confrontation, even just the thought of exposing his scars, was terrifying. He could dismiss her as just a waitress no longer. She was an equal playing field now. What if he exposed his vulnerabilities, only to find them weaponized against him later? He wasn't entirely sure who he was risking more, his heart or his business. "I need to contemplate this," he murmured, searching for a way to keep this newfound alliance intact while also shielding his weaknesses. "We'll be presenting to international partners soon. A language barrier shouldn't be our greatest obstacle. Let us play to our strengths," she urged, and in that moment, he witnessed a strength in her that inspired him to push back against his instinctive fears. That evening, as the rain subsided, Mark found himself outlining his plans for a new strategy with Elena. The lines of potential prosperity began to form clearly in his mind. But even as they engaged in productive discussions, the weight of his past lingered, casting shadows on their bright future. They ended the night with a tentative agreement to embrace the necessary challenges ahead, a bond forming that felt both thrilling and terrifying. Yet, just as they were reaching for clarity, Mark's phone buzzed ominously. An email notification won with the subject line that made his blood run cold. Investors requesting immediate clarity on product failures. The moment of truth was arriving fast, and a bitter realization clawed at him. Would he be able to navigate this with Elena by his side, or would past mistakes draw them apart before they had a chance to succeed? He met her gaze, the question echoing deeper: could their partnership withstand the storm, or would it shatter under the weight of external pressures? The fluorescent lights of Mark's office flickered as he sat in disbelief, his fingers poised above the keyboard. His email sat open, the ping of incoming messages now a haunting symphony of chaos. He could swear that the subject line throbbed with an ominous intensity, his pulse matching the rhythm of his growing anxiety. He knew the questions lurking within that email, each one a dagger aimed at his already fragile confidence. Taking a deep breath, he began to compose a response, but the words felt hollow. How could he explain a failure rooted in overblown promises? The very essence of his professional identity hung by a thread, and any wrong move could send everything toppling over like a house of cards. Mark paused, internal conflict raging within him. Elena's words echoed in his mind. Confront it, don't run. But could he? He was still traversing the terrain of his past misdeeds, each step a potential minefield laden with regret. Just when there seemed a glimmer of progress, the shadows of his failures loomed large, threatening to undermine this newfound partnership that sparked unexpected hope. He texted Elena, asking if she could meet him to discuss the repercussions of the email. Her reply was swift. "Absolutely. We're in this together." Even through the phone screen, the determination in her words shone brightly. Part of him felt relieved, another part was terrified. The hours dragged, each tick of the clock amplifying his doubts about the upcoming meeting. As he paced the confines of his office, Mark's mind raced. Would Elena see his weaknesses as liabilities? Would the partnership they were building grow stronger from shared adversity, or would it crumble beneath the weight of his past? When she arrived, the tension in the air was palpable. Elena immediately picked up on his unease. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she said, a soft smile trying to cut through his apprehension that he gestured to the screen, the ominous email still displayed. "They want explanations, Elena. The investors, they're not going to wait." Elena's expression shifted from curiosity to seriousness. "Then we need to prepare our case. What is the plan?" The assertiveness in her voice steadied him momentarily. It was contagious, fueling the flicker of determination that had sparked that night in the cafe. Mark took a seat across from her, squaring his shoulders. "First, we need to clarify the specifics. I know where I went wrong, but I need your perspective, especially since you understand the market better than I do." He observed her nodding with keen attention, like a hawk readying to dive for prey. As they delved into a strategic discussion, Mark was surprised to find himself momentarily lost in the flow of ideas. Elena's insights shone a light on aspects of the business he'd neglected. She was intelligent, insightful, and saw opportunities in the challenges he had only deemed obstacles. The anxiety that once clung to him began to fade, replaced with a growing sense of collaboration. Hours later, they had sketched a preliminary report outlining their findings and responses to the investors' concerns. Mark sensed the dynamic shift. This was no longer just his battle. Their partnership had evolved into a powerful alliance, buoyed by shared purpose and mutual respect. Yet as they concluded their meeting, an unwelcome thought nagged at him. What would happen when the investors scrutinized their findings closely? And would any resurgence of his past detour Elena's faith in their budding collaboration? Feeling the weight of that uncertainty, Mark decided it was time to confront his fears, not just for his sake, but for Elena's as well. The next stage seemed inevitable. But even as he resolved to be transparent about his past, another notification signaled a new message on his phone, this time from a former colleague with whom he had severed ties. The subject line read, "Need to discuss urgent matters regarding your previous product." With the tension thickening once more, Mark's heart raced. This time, the moment of truth was not just a professional one. It was a personal reckoning that could alter everything he and Elena had begun to build. Mark's hand hesitated over his phone, the notification's bold subject line buzzing in his mind like an angry hornet. A flood of memories surged, endless nights grappling with failures and tumultuous periods of self-doubt. The past wasn't just a blur. It had teeth and claws that could latch onto him any second. He would need to decide quickly. If the message from his former colleague held good news, it could potentially bolster the integrity of his business. Conversely, if it was another critique, his burgeoning partnership with Elena might falter under the weight of his past failures. He opened the message with trepidation. "Mark, I can't believe I'm reaching out like this, but I need to discuss the state of the old product. It's affecting my current operations," and Mark's breath caught in his throat. What followed was a narrative detailing improprieties that had sprouted after his departure, a cascading failure that was igniting turmoil among his previous team. The gravity of the situation crept over him, muddying the confidence he had begun to build with Elena. Would this news place him squarely in the spotlight of scrutiny he had just learned to navigate? He couldn't behold the shame of failure again without risking everything. He pushed the phone aside, staring blankly at the wall. Marks on the drywall seemed to mirror the failures tattooed on his own psyche. Taking a deep breath, he steeled himself. Failure wouldn't determine his future. He had grown since then. He had Elena, and together they could confront whatever lay ahead. Just as the fervor of determination flared within him, Elena's voice sliced through his reverie. "Mark, I'm going to need you to share everything with me if we're going to get through this." Her brow was furrowed, but her tone remained steady. He looked up, her eyes searching his. "I just got a message from a former colleague. They want to discuss the product I left behind. It's not good news." Elena leaned closer, her expression shifting from concern to focus. What did they say? Mark relayed the contents of the message, each word met with a growing frown on her face. When he finished, the silence loomed, wrapping around them like a thick fog. He could sense the wheels turning in Elena's mind. "We can't let this derail us," she finally said, her voice steadying. "We stay proactive. This isn't about playing defense. It's about owning our narrative. We'll address the issue and manage the fallout before it becomes a catastrophe. But I need you to commit, Mark. No hiding." His resolve solidified. The path before him wasn't static. It was dynamic, filled with grit and the possibility for reclamation. Mark leaned against his desk, facing her squarely. "You're right. I need to take responsibility. This is my past, and I've avoided it for too long. If I want to grow, I need to face it, and I'm not doing it alone." Elena's shoulders relaxed, her faith in him evident. "Good. Then let us craft a response and reach out for a meeting sooner rather than later. Not just for the shareholding investors, but to get clarity on what your former colleague wants. Our collaboration thrives on transparency." The conversation pivoted back to action. Mark buried his doubts beneath layers of tactical strategies alongside Elena's insights. They hammered out a communication outline, built a framework for engaging with a former colleague, and strategized how to turn potential disaster into a learning opportunity. As they shifted through ideas and refined them, Mark could feel the cracks in his past beginning to heal. He had shifted from viewing obstacles as insurmountable to recognizing them as pivotal stepping stones toward growth. For the first time in a long time, fear sat in the corner while determination took center stage. But just as their preparation reached a crescendo, another notification from his phone flashed. This time, it was a video call request from the former colleague. Mark's heart sank, realizing that first impressions could seal their fate. More than ever, he needed to man up. As the screen called for his attention, he shot a glance at Elena. "It's showtime." Mark inhaled sharply, steeling himself for the confrontation ahead. This meeting could either shatter or solidify everything he was building with Elena. The weight of what lay beyond the screen loomed heavy, but it was also an invitation to redefine his future. Would he finally convert his past into a foundation, or fall prey to old fears? Mark's finger trembled against the screen as he accepted the call, revealing the familiar face of his former colleague, Jason. The jovial exterior Jason once wore felt aged by the stress evident in his furrowed brows. A fleeting flicker of nostalgia washed over Mark, quickly replaced by the looming reality of their situation. "Hey, Mark," Jason began, his tone cautiously probing. "Thanks for agreeing to chat. I know this is a bit strange considering everything." "Let's cut to the chase, Jason," Mark replied, surprising even himself with the steadiness of his voice. "I understand there are issues with the product I left behind. What's going on?" The silence hung heavily, thick with unspoken frustrations. Finally, Jason exhaled, the weariness palpable. "It's worse than I anticipated. The quality has severely declined since you left, and our new customers are noticing. We've had complaints piling up, and I'm trying to navigate through all of this." I didn't know who else to turn to. With the ground shifting beneath him, Mark fought to keep his composure. This wasn't just a revelation about the past. It was a direct confrontation with the consequences of his departure. He could feel his old insecurities lunging forward, ready to claw at his confidence. But then Elena's words echoed in his mind, urging him to embrace ownership rather than shy away. "Jason, I didn't handle the transition well. I see that now. I should have provided more support during the handover. But I want to help. What can we do?" Jason blinked, astounded by Mark's shift in attitude. "You want to help? After everything that happened? Surprising, isn't it?" Mark replied, fighting back a surge of vulnerability. "I've spent a lot of time growing, Jason. Let us turn this around together." The conversation crackled with a new energy, marked by an openness that had been absent in their previous exchanges. They discussed causes, potential solutions, and set benchmarks to progress. With each passing minute, Mark could feel the shadows of embarrassment begin to recede. He was no longer merely a passive agent of his past, but an active participant in creating a solution. Halfway through the conversation, Jason leaned closer to the screen, lowering his voice. I heard from some people that you're working with a new partner. How is that going? Mark's chest tightened. How much of his professional life should he share with Jason? The instinct to withhold information had always been there, born from the pain of his previous failures. Yet, looking into Jason's eyes, Mark recognized an opportunity for mutual growth, a bridge to rebuild their professional relationship. Elena and I are creating something new together, he said finally, allowing pride to shape his tone. It's been a rewarding process. She has a wealth of knowledge in areas I'd never approached before. We're making strides. Sounds promising, Jason replied, the corners of his mouth lifting. Maybe you can apply some of that insight to tackle this product issue. I'd appreciate your guidance on restructuring our quality checks. It could help us get back on track. Mark nodded, a sense of purpose washing over him. The collaboration with Jason sought to transcend the bitter past. It was a chance to become pivotal in a new foundation, redistributing power that once felt so far out of reach. I'm on board. I could draft a plan, and we can have a follow-up meeting soon. When they ended the call, Mark sat back, exhaling deeply. The encounter had rekindled a part of him he thought lost, temporarily overshadowed by doubt. In a world of failures, he had just turned one into a catalyst for change. Impressive work, Elena remarked, appearing at the doorway. There's more in you than you realize, and this could be a pivotal moment for you. Mark offered her a sheepish smile, an undercurrent of realization coursing through him. I think I'm finally beginning to understand that facing challenges can unlock doors I never saw before. As they clasped hands, a surge of unity emerged between them. But just as the hope swelled, the phone buzzed again. This time it was a notification that sent a jolt through him, a text from Jason indicating that a significant investor was pulling out due to the product's declines. Mark's heart raced. Just when he thought he had a grip on the reins, uncertainty crept back in. He felt a familiar twinge of anxiety, as if the ground beneath him was shifting yet again. Ready for more? Elena asked, her gaze penetrating yet supportive. Mark met her eyes, determination flickering back to life. Let us turn this into an opportunity. It begins now. The moment to dig deeper into the tumult of their emerging venture had arrived, yet his past still loomed ominously in the background. Would their resilience allow them to flourish amid the storms ahead? The hum of uncertainty lingered in the air like a dense fog as Mark stared at the screen, absorbing the weight of Jason's message. A significant investor pulling out was more than just a financial shift. It was a threat to the fragile project they had just begun to weave together. Mark's thoughts raced, spiraling into dark corners he had worked hard to escape. This was just business. It felt intensely personal. Okay, he said, his voice steadier than he felt. We can't let this dictate our next move. We need to solidify our strategy and address both quality and confidence. If we show transparency, maybe we can salvage this. Elena nodded as they both settled at the table scattered with notebooks and coffee cups. The warm light of the late afternoon sun filtered through the curtains, casting soft shadows across Mark's determined features. He was no longer the passive, uncertain employee of his past. He felt an urgency to lead, to create a plan that could withstand the onslaught. Let's brainstorm, Elena suggested, her voice calm, yet charged with anticipation. What strategies can we implement? We need to show them that we're committed to fixing the issue. Mark took a breath, feeling the remnants of doubt dissipate as he began to gather his thoughts. First, we can establish a task force focused solely on quality assurance. It should include hands-on team members who understand the product intricately. Let us empower them to speak up about changes during the manufacturing process. Great idea, Elena interjected, her enthusiasm infectious. We can set up weekly check-ins to ensure everyone is on the same page. Driven by the momentum of the conversation, Mark scribbled ideas rapidly. This was the thrill. He had craved, a sense of purpose wrapped in the belief that their combined efforts could transform the situation. Each letter he wrote felt less like a tether to the past and more like a foundation for their new aspirations. Next, let us prepare a communication plan for stakeholders, he continued, the specifics flowing more fluidly now. Honesty is key. We need to convey that we're taking steps to address the decline and that their investment remains a priority. As they strategized, Mark felt a flicker of something he hadn't experienced in a long time: confidence. The earlier knot in his stomach began to loosen as they exchanged ideas, creating a tapestry of solutions. Their synergy invigorated him. This was becoming more than just a response to adversity. It was an opportunity to redefine his role. An hour later, amid a flurry of notes and ideas, Mark paused, his breath catching at a realization. The only way to truly engage with the team and potential investors was to be personal, to reveal the human side behind the decisions. He needed to share the journey, the struggles, the lessons learned. If he could be authentic, he could inspire faith and rally everyone toward a shared goal. Elena noticed a shift in demeanor, her brow furrowing slightly. "What's on your mind?" Mark met her gaze, steel determination flare in his eyes. "I need to be transparent with them, Elena. I need to convey where I've been and what led us to this moment. It's not just about the product. It's about trust. Trust is everything, Mark." "You're right," Elena replied, the weight of their shared mission dawning on her anew. "But are you ready to let them in?" "More than ever," he affirmed, feeling the pulse of purpose in his veins. It was a radical step, revealing vulnerabilities, but for the first time since stepping away from his previous life, he felt ready to take that leap. As they finalized their strategy, exhilaration coursed through Mark. They had the framework for a robust plan, and now it was time to put it into action. Yet, just as the momentum built, a new notification pinged on his phone. A message from Jason, another roadblock. "We need to talk. Urgent." Mark's heart raced again, the familiar tension swooping back in. He could feel the magnitude of their efforts on the brink of being tested. "I guess this is our moment," he said, standing up with renewed vigor. "We have to face whatever's coming." Elena's eyes sparkled with determination, mirroring his own. "Together, we will tackle it. Let us get ready. This is only the beginning." As he prepared to dive into the unknown, both wary and anticipative, Mark couldn't shake the feeling that this moment was crucial, not only for their project, but for his personal growth. Would this challenge finally push him to confront his deeper fears, or would it unravel the progress he fought to achieve? The rush of adrenaline coursed through Mark as he stared at the message from Jason, uncertainty clinging to him like a second skin. The words leaped off the screen, threatening to disrupt the equilibrium he was building alongside Elena. What did Jason want? He swallowed hard, feeling the weight of anticipation settle in his chest like a stone. "All right," he said, trying to maintain an air of composed professionalism. "Let us see what he has to say. It's time to confront this head-on." The notion of facing Jason felt like standing at the edge of a precipice, a thrilling mix of fear and excitement coursing through him. After a brief exchange with Elena, Mark stepped out into the corridor, the buzzing fluorescent lights casting a stark glow over everything. Each step toward Jason's office felt heavy, burdened with all the unsaid fears of failure and a flickering hope for understanding. He knocked before entering, forcing a tight smile as he walked in. "Mark," Jason said, his tone uncharacteristically subdued. "Thanks for coming by." The CEO's demeanor was a stark contrast to his usual authoritative presence. His eyes held an unexpected vulnerability. "Of course. You mentioned it was urgent?" Mark prodded, bracing himself for the blow that could shatter everything he had begun to solidify. Jason nodded slowly, glancing through a few documents spread across his desk. "I've had an internal discussion regarding our investors, and, to be blunt, there are growing concerns. We need to reinforce our appeal compellingly and quickly. If we're to show real transparency, it starts from the top." Mark felt a tightness in his throat. A directive from Jason stirred something deep within him. Instead of panic, he felt an awakening, a realization that he was now part of the metamorphosis he feared months ago. I've been thinking about that, actually. I believe we need to get personal with all of our stakeholders. If they see the human element behind the data, it will change the narrative. Jason raised an eyebrow, curious but skeptical. Personal how? I want to open up about our journey, my journey, the struggles I faced, and how they shaped the project. It's not just about numbers. It's trust that we need to build, Mark articulated, his voice gaining strength with each passing word. He could sense Jason's initial resistance fading. Sharing your personal story could humanize our efforts, Jason acknowledged slowly, his fingers steepled thoughtfully. It's a risky move, though. Are you prepared for the scrutiny? Mark's heart raced, yet he felt a rush of clarity. I am. If we want to connect and rebuild trust, I have to be willing to expose my vulnerabilities. This isn't just about leading this project. It's about leading our company into a new era. A moment of silence hung in the air, thick with the gravity of that commitment. Jason nodded. You're showing promise, Mark. This could be our turning point. Buoyed by Jason's encouragement, Mark stepped out of the office into the corridor once more. Each step felt lighter, his resolve solidifying with the challenge ahead. He could do this. He had to do this. Back at his desk, he hurriedly drafted a speech, each word carefully chosen, shaped by honesty and resilience. The thrill of unveiling his journey fueled his creativity, illuminating the page with passion. He was no longer just a participant. He was a leader taking ownership of a narrative, but as he reached the conclusion of his draft, a deep sense of unease crept in. What challenges lay beneath the surface of this vulnerability? Would his truth empower others or backfire in ways he hadn't anticipated? The sound of an incoming call shook him from his thoughts. When he answered, it was Elena, her voice urgent. Mark, I just received some alarming feedback about the project. We need to talk. There's been a significant development. His stomach dropped. The road ahead was thick with complexity, layers waiting to be unraveled. Would this revelation challenge everything he had just built up, or would it guide him to an even greater awakening? The chaos of potential. Responses clashed within him as he trotted deeper into the unknown, aware that the next conversation could redirect the course of their efforts dramatically. Mark stood frozen by his desk, the words alarming feedback echoing in his mind like a relentless drumbeat. He gripped the edge of the desk, willing himself to process what Elena had just said. The high of his recent resolve felt fleeting, dissipating beneath the weight of this unexpected hurdle. Alarming feedback? He repeated, trying to wrestle control of his racing thoughts. What exactly did you hear? Elena's voice broke through the static of his concerns. It's about the projections for our upcoming launch. One of the key investors has serious doubts about the data we've presented. They're considering pulling out. The world narrowed to the sound of his heartbeat. This was no ordinary setback. It threatened to topple everything he worked so hard to establish. Mark quickly cataloged the pieces of information he thought he had under control. What's at the root of their concerns? Apparently, they believe that our growth metrics are inflated and they want more transparency around our past results, she explained with a hint of urgency. I think if we don't address this now, it could spiral out of control. Uncertainty coiled in his gut. He could feel the foundations he'd tried to lay shaking beneath him. All right, he said slowly, endeavoring to reclaim his authority. We need to act fast. Let us arrange a meeting to clarify any misunderstandings. If they want transparency, we'll give it to them, even if it means revealing what we've kept in the dark. Elena, he added, a glimmer of determination igniting in his eyes. This could be my chance to connect with them, not just through data, but through my story. If they see how this project has impacted my life, it might resonate. Maybe we can turn this around. She was silent for a moment. That's a solid strategy. But are you prepared for what that entails? Exposing your vulnerabilities isn't just about making a connection. It opens the door to scrutiny. Mark could feel the weight of her words. The moment he became transparent, he lay himself bare to judgment, not just from investors, but his team, and perhaps even himself. Did he truly have the courage to confront the ghosts of his past that clung to every decision he made? Let us prioritize the meeting, he said, steeling himself. But I need to think through what I will share. If my journey can bridge that trust gap, it's worth the risk. Elena's unwavering gaze encouraged him, but deep down, doubt flickered like a candle struggling against the wind. What if his history, the failures, the regrets, was too much for them to bear? As they began to formulate a plan, sequences of his life danced through Mark's mind. The corporate ladder he climbed was peppered with stories of near defeat, moments when he almost gave up. They weren't just setbacks, they were battles that shaped the man he had become. Could those experiences empower others? Could vulnerability inspire confidence? A series of images flitted before him, moments of self-doubt, voices of negativity, the biting fear of failure. It was impossible to ignore how these experiences birthed resilience. Mark felt a surge of responsibility to mold this into a narrative that didn't just showcase the project's viability, but also illuminated the very human journey behind it. The meeting with investors loomed like a storm on the horizon. Mark knew he was about to step into the eye of that storm, where vulnerability and courage collided. Would his story offer the clarity they needed, or would it manifest as a moment of reckoning? As they drafted a response, Mark's phone buzzed with an incoming text. It was Jason again, asking for an update on the situation. A sense of urgency gripped him as he typed back a brief message, but as he pressed send, another sensation washed over him, an impending wave of change. This revelation could redefine his leadership in ways he never expected. Mark glanced at Elena, who was deeply focused on the notes they were drafting. No matter what happens, he said firmly, we need to be ready to demonstrate authenticity in our response. It's time for complete transparency. With each passing moment, the weight of his journey pressed against him, the knowledge that he would be called to expose multifaceted layers of his experience. Yet, within that pressure was a daring call to embrace his evolution. What awaited him in that meeting felt both exhilarating and terrifying, the intertwining of success and vulnerability weaving into a tale yet to unfold. And as he braced himself for this new challenge, a chilling thought surfaced. What if by revealing too much, he jeopardized everything he had worked to establish? Soon enough, they would confront this challenge together. But what true revelations awaited him on this precarious path ahead? As Mark prepared for the upcoming investor meeting, his mind whirled with apprehension and possibility. He could feel the tension coiling in his stomach, each thought a jumbled mix of optimism and dread. He needed to articulate his story clearly, but was acutely aware of the weight of the vulnerabilities he planned to reveal. What if they misinterpreted his intentions? What if they saw his honesty as weakness? In the quiet of his office, surrounded by the familiar, yet strangely suffocating buzz of activity outside, he found himself pacing. Each step was a careful negotiation with anxiety, urging him to contemplate how to balance the narrative of success with the truth of his experiences. He paused at the window, looking out at the city sprawling beneath him, illuminating the grandeur of what he aspired to achieve. But under that glow lay shadows, his failures, his losses, and the relentless self-doubt that plagued him. Mark, you can't just stand there. Elena's voice interrupted his swirling thoughts. We need to rehearse your story. Time to work out the kinks. Taking a deep breath, he turned towards her, nodding. You're right. Let us flesh it out. I need to ensure it's not just my history, but a lesson, a message. He settled down at his desk, pulling out a notepad, fingers hovering over the pen as he pondered how to distill his essence into a few words. He began to write. Memories cascaded over him, times he stood at the brink of failure, those pivotal moments distorted by self-doubt. Each experience carried lessons, but would they resonate with the investors? He scribbled feverishly, striving for clarity. Start with the painful moments, Elena suggested, breaking his concentration. What you learn from them is more powerful than you realize. Mark nodded, feeling a wave of determination crash over him. Right, they need to see that I didn't just sail through. I fought hard for this. His voice gained strength, as he framed the narrative. He would embrace the scrapes and bruises of his journey. They were proof of his tenacity. Yet, doubt returned uninvited. What if they judged him exclusively by his past? What if his mistakes became hooks for their skepticism? He cleared his throat and pushed the fear aside, reminding himself that authenticity was compelling even if it made him vulnerable. He needed to articulate not just the path, but the transformation that journey had evoked within him. With each sentence he penned, the outline of his speech took shape. It was about honesty, the fear of inadequacy he fought against every day, and the breakthroughs that shaped his vision of success. Suddenly, fear turned into a decision, sharp and clear. "Elena, let us be proactive," he declared, excitement flaring. "I want to invite the investors to ask questions. Let us create an environment where they feel comfortable challenging me. I need them to see my commitment, the lengths I've gone to overcome obstacles." Her eyes widened a fraction, a flicker of admiration breaking through her earlier concern. "It's risky, but it could work. Are you ready to handle that, though? You know they might push hard." "I have to be," he responded, feeling a surge of resolve course through him. "I need to engage them beyond numbers. This launch is not just a project. It's a testament to growth, both for the company and for me. I need them to know how much this means." The gravity of his words settled in as realization washed over him. This was his transformation moment. He would not just present data. He would share the visceral journey that led to it. Once again, the narrative evolved, shifting from a mere corporate update to something human, personal and raw. Elena smiled, nodding as if she could sense the change in him. "Let's keep working on it. You've got a unique story to tell." Hours slipped away as they honed his message, fashioning it into a narrative that embodied courage and vulnerability, qualities that Mark hoped would resonate with his audience. Night fell, and they wrapped up their preparation. The weight of the impending meeting loomed ahead. He gathered his notes, realizing that his commitment to authenticity was paired with uncharted territories that tickled the edges of fear. Would he be able to stand firm amidst the scrutiny? Just then, his phone buzzed with another message from Jason, asking how things were going. A hint of apprehension mingled with excitement surged through him. The real test was about to begin. Could he truly transform his fears into strength in the eyes of the investors? And as Mark lingered on that question, a new wave of adrenaline washed over him. The moment had arrived for him to face his past. What would he discover about himself during this encounter? Mark stood confidently before the assembled group of investors, and the air hummed with tension. This was not merely a presentation about numbers and forecasts. It was a culmination of his journey, a raw recounting of professional setback and personal transformation. He had once let fear dictate his decisions, but now, bolstered by Elena's unwavering support, he was ready to embrace his vulnerabilities. As he began to speak, Mark felt a seismic shift within himself. He articulated his past failures, the corporate scandal that had haunted him, the moments of self-doubt that had nearly derailed his ambition. Each word he shared carried weight, but rather than eliciting pity, he felt the room transform. Faces turned keenly aware, eyes softened by understanding. He had come not just to account for the past, but to demonstrate how those experiences had galvanized his resolve to forge a better path for the future. "Investors," he declared, meeting their gazes with solid conviction, "I want to take ownership of my past. I made mistakes, but I learned lessons that are embedded in the fabric of this project." The room, once filled with just anxious anticipation, now buzzed with respect for his honesty. With Elena's insights in mind, he transitioned into discussing how his partnership with her had revolutionized their approach to the challenges at hand. "We've rebuilt from the ground up, addressing our weaknesses head-on. That commitment to transparency is not merely a business strategy. It is who we are moving forward. Our product has been refined, and together we stand ready to meet not just expectations, but to exceed them." In that moment, he could see the glimmer of recognition bloom in the investors' eyes. They were galvanizing from skeptics into potential allies. Mark illustrated the steps, they had taken to ensure quality controls and structured feedback loops that would keep them accountable moving forward. Success isn't a destination. It is a journey that demands resilience, and I am committed to ensuring this journey belongs to all of us, he concluded. The gathering erupted into an applause that reverberated against the walls, a sound buoyed not merely by relief or obligation, but genuine appreciation. He had transformed from a figure of fear to one of inspiration. As the meeting ended, Mark felt the weight lift from his chest. The tides of anxiety had begun to wane, replaced by a sense of accomplishment that swelled within him. Each investor now recognized not only his competence, but also the profound personal growth he had undertaken. He had transcended his past errors, confronting them instead of hiding, which catalyzed newfound respect from those he had once feared. After the meeting, Elena approached him, her eyes sparkling with pride. "You did it, Mark. You owned your narrative, and they heard you. That was exceptional." Mark took a deep breath, feeling the rush of satisfaction wash over him. "I think for the first time, I truly believe in my capabilities and the value we're building together," he responded. With that assurance, he took a significant step forward in his personal evolution. He had transformed from a man consumed by fear to someone who stood firm in his resolve, grounded by genuine integrity. In the coming weeks, as Mark steered the team toward launching the product, their combined efforts bore fruit. Investors responded positively, renewed interest blossomed, and industry accolades followed. The stability he had long craved was no longer just a hope. It had become a reality forged through authenticity and hard work. Mark had conquered the dual challenges of his past failures and the doubts that had ensnared him. He had redefined his path from an insecure CEO shadowed by missteps to a leader known for resilience and growth. In possessing the courage to face his vulnerabilities, he discovered that true strength emerges from transparency. The acknowledgement of his struggles only amplified his stature and validated the commitment to moving forward, both as a dynamic leader and a dedicated partner. Elena's presence continued to embolden him, her insights further refining their approach. Together, they blossomed not just as colleagues, but as formidable allies navigating the shifting tides of the industry. They had cultivated something special, an extraordinary synergy that transcended mere business transactions. Mark gazed out of the office window. A sense of pride surged through him. Here stood a man no longer shackled by fear, but a resilient professional ready to embrace the future. He had not only achieved personal fulfillment, but had also laid a solid groundwork for long-term success. Mark beamed, knowing well that this was just the beginning. He had finally embraced his narrative, a powerful testament that resilience and authenticity are the cornerstones of true achievement, guiding him toward uncharted realms of success and self-actualization. Now was the time to inspire others to believe in their stories, to a legacy that would reverberate far beyond the confines of this journey. This was the moment to join him on this adventure. You need to subscribe now to catch the next exclusive emotional stories that pave the way to transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Every click makes an impact. Comment below with your reactions and theories about Mark's incredible journey. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this powerful conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. Let's inspire others together.